Death comes for all of us. That's the one guarantee in life. But every now and then, someone manages to meet their end in a way so unnecessary, so avoidable, that it feels almost unreal. These aren't deaths caused by fate, illness, or unavoidable catastrophe. They're the result of impatience, misplaced confidence, and a fundamental misunderstanding of how the world works. These are some of those deaths. It was June 15, 2024, in Columbus, Ohio. The morning air was already heavy with humidity, the kind that clings to your skin and makes even small tasks feel exhausting. 52-year-old Bobby Henderson stood in his backyard staring at his lawn, which had become a growing source of anxiety over the past 3 weeks. The grass was long, uneven, patchy in places, thick and tangled in others. For most people, it would have been a mild annoyance. For Bobby, it had turned into a ticking clock. His homeowners association had already sent 2 warning letters. The first was polite. The second was not. The next step would be fines, and Bobby hated fines more than he hated yard work. Bobby Henderson was an insurance adjuster by trade. Methodical. Practical. He spent his days assessing damage, calculating risk, and explaining to other people why things had gone wrong. Ironically, he had a habit of underestimating risk in his own life, especially when it came to tasks he considered simple. Mowing the lawn was one of those tasks. He'd been putting it off for weeks. Golf outings. Long work days. The usual excuses. His riding mower sat in the shed, untouched, unserviced, and ignored. It hadn't been maintained in over 2 years, but Bobby assumed it would be fine. It always had been before. That Saturday morning, his wife finally lost patience. Either mow the lawn today, she told him, or she was hiring a professional service and billing him for it. Bobby took the ultimatum personally. He saw it as an attack on his independence, his competence, and his pride. So he skipped breakfast, pulled on an old t-shirt, and marched outside determined to get the job done as fast as possible. The grass was still wet from the morning dew. Thick, heavy, and slick underfoot. It was the first warning sign, but Bobby ignored it. He was focused on speed. He had a tea time scheduled for 10 o'clock, and he fully intended to make it. At exactly 7 a.m., Bobby fired up the riding mower. The engine sputtered, coughed, then roared to life. He set the blades to their lowest setting and pushed the throttle forward. Maximum speed. No warm-up. No test pass. He wanted this over with. As the mower tore through the overgrown lawn, clumps of wet grass began collecting underneath the cutting deck. The neglected machine struggled, the engine audibly straining under the load. Bobby noticed the loss of power but pressed on anyway, zigzagging aggressively across the yard. After about 20 minutes, the inevitable happened. The mower choked. The blade slowed. The engine bogged down. And then it stalled. Bobby sighed in frustration. He'd dealt with this before. Grass jam. Simple fix. Normally, he would have turned off the engine, disengaged the blades, and waited for everything to stop moving before clearing the blockage. But this time was different. He was annoyed. Behind schedule. And convinced that safety precautions were suggestions meant for people less experienced than him. Instead of turning off the mower, Bobby left the engine running. He climbed off the seat and bent down toward the underside of the deck, planning to yank the wet grass free by hand. This decision would end his life. Riding lawnmowers are deceptively dangerous machines. The blades spin at thousands of revolutions per minute. Even after the engine is shut off, they can continue moving for several seconds. With the engine still running, they are essentially industrial-grade knives. Bobby knew this. He simply chose to ignore it. As he reached underneath the mower, his foot slipped on the wet grass. The ground offered no traction. His balance shifted forward. And in a fraction of a second, he fell directly toward the spinning blades. The impact was catastrophic. The blade struck his torso and arms with immense force, slicing through muscle, tissue, and major blood vessels almost instantly. The injuries were massive, violent, and unsurvivable. Bobby screamed once before collapsing onto the lawn, blood pooling rapidly beneath him. The mower continued running. By the time his wife came outside 30 minutes later to bring him coffee, the yard was silent except for the idling engine. She found him lying face down in the grass. She screamed and called 911 immediately, but there was nothing anyone could do. Paramedics arrived within minutes. Bobby Henderson was pronounced dead at the scene. He had bled out in his own front yard, the cause of death listed as catastrophic traumatic injuries caused by contact with lawnmower blades. The investigation was brief. There was no mechanical failure. No freak malfunction. No external factors. The mower was operating exactly as designed. The only failure was human. The neighborhood association distributed lawnmower safety pamphlets to every household in the subdivision the following week. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Bobby Henderson died because he treated a powerful machine like a harmless household tool. Because he valued speed over caution. Because he believed one small shortcut couldn't possibly matter. It did. His death stands as a grim reminder that some of the most dangerous decisions aren't dramatic or daring. They're ordinary. Routine. Made by people who think they know better. Sometimes, the difference between finishing a chore and never coming home at all is a single button you chose not to press. It was May 18, 2015, on a warm afternoon in Austin, Texas, when Amanda Rodriguez convinced herself she had found the perfect solution to a minor problem. Amanda was 31 years old. She was a tech executive, the kind people described as brilliant, relentless, and always 5 steps ahead. She ran a fast-growing software company whose campus sprawled across nearly 50 acres of concrete paths, glass buildings, and landscaped courtyards. Walking from one end to the other took time Amanda didn't believe she had. So she bought a Segway. $6,000 for the top-of-the-line model. To Amanda, it wasn't just transportation. It was a statement. Efficiency. Innovation. Momentum. The manual recommended 2 to 3 hours of practice before real use. Amanda gave it 20 minutes. Her assistant mentioned the staircase near the fountain courtyard, a steep, 15-step drop that employees were warned to avoid with wheeled devices. Amanda waved it off. She had an investor call scheduled. She was late. And she was confident. At 2:15 p.m., Amanda glided across the campus at the Segway's maximum speed. A Bluetooth headset hugged her ear as she talked projections and growth curves, gesturing with her free hand. Her focus was split between numbers and momentum. She never saw the stairs. Segways are designed for flat surfaces. Gentle slopes. Not abrupt vertical drops. The front wheels rolled over the first step. The platform pitched forward violently. Amanda was thrown ahead, but her right foot caught in the steering column. Her body became tethered to the machine. She fell headfirst, tumbling down concrete steps while still partially attached to a 103-pound device. Her skull struck the edge of the 7th step. The fracture was catastrophic. The Segway followed her down, landing on top of her with crushing force, collapsing her ribcage and rupturing internal organs. The brain injury alone would have been fatal. The rest simply made it irreversible. Employees ran. Someone called 911. By the time paramedics arrived, Amanda had been unconscious for less than 2 minutes, but she was already gone. The campus installed barriers the following week. Personal transport devices were banned outright. Amanda Rodriguez died not because technology failed, but because confidence convinced her rules didn't apply. It was July 8, 2019, in Erzurum, Turkey, when Zafer Korkmaz decided to solve a legal problem with a shortcut. Zafer was 24 years old. He had recently been convicted for assault after a violent fight left another man injured. The judge showed leniency, community service instead of prison. To the court, it was mercy. To Zephyr, it was humiliation. Cleaning streets. Painting walls. Wearing reflective vests in public. He wanted out. And instead of appealing legally, he chose something faster. Zephyr had an idea. If he could get injured badly enough, but not too badly, he could land in the hospital and avoid punishment altogether. He didn't want a bruise. He wanted proof. So he called two friends. Ada was 18. Mello was a few years older. They trusted Zephyr. They listened when he explained the plan. He wanted to be shot. Not with a BB gun. Not blanks. A real shotgun. The pillows came next. Two thick household pillows strapped to his back. Zephyr believed they would absorb the impact. He believed pain and injury were negotiable. Shotguns don't work that way. At close range, a shotgun fires dozens of metal pellets that spread instantly. There is no single point of impact, only devastation. Zephyr stood with his back turned. Ada held the gun. His hand shook. He pulled the trigger. The blast tore through fabric, feathers, and flesh. Pellets shredded Zephyr's back, puncturing lungs and severing blood vessels. He collapsed immediately, gasping, drowning in his own blood. They didn't call an ambulance right away. Fear does that to people. By the time help arrived, Zephyr was already dead. Police arrested Ada on the spot. Mello was questioned. The autopsy confirmed what physics already had: survival had never been an option. Zephyr Korkmaz died trying to fake an injury that the court would never have accepted anyway. 3 lives altered. 1 decision. 0 foresight. Some deaths don't come from recklessness alone, but from aesthetics. It was August 2021, in Novi Sad, Serbia, when Elena Markovic decided her apartment needed one final touch. Elena was 27. A lifestyle content creator with a modest but loyal online following. Her balcony overlooked the city, sunsets, rooftops, and soft evening light. She wanted a space that felt effortless. Calm. Shareable. So she installed a hammock. The railing looked solid. Concrete. Waist high. It had been there for decades. Elena watched several videos. She followed instructions, mostly. What she didn't consider was load distribution. Balcony railings are designed for lateral pressure. Leaning. Not downward force. Not dynamic movement. On the 3rd evening, Elena climbed in with her phone. She adjusted the angle. Shifted her weight. The anchor point failed instantly. The railing sheared away from the wall. Elena fell for stories. Neighbors heard the sound before they understood it. Emergency responders arrived within minutes, but the injuries were unsurvivable. Multiple fractures. Massive internal trauma. The photos were never posted. The investigation found no negligence, just misuse. Elena Markovic died because something that looked stable wasn't built for what she asked of it. It was January 27, 2018, at a government hospital in Mumbai, India. The day began like countless others inside the crowded medical complex, where hallways echoed with hurried footsteps, murmured conversations, and the constant beeping of machines that never seemed to rest. For most people inside the building, it was just another exhausting day of illness, waiting, and paperwork. For 32-year-old Rajesh Maru, it was supposed to be a simple act of kindness. Rajesh was a textile shop employee from Lalborg, a densely populated working-class neighborhood. He had recently started a new job and was eager to prove himself reliable. That morning, he wasn't heading to work. Instead, he was accompanying his brother-in-law and their elderly relative, Lakshmi Sankhi, who had been admitted for serious breathing issues and suspected meningitis. Rajesh wasn't a medical worker. He wasn't trained in hospital procedures or safety protocols. He was simply a family member doing what millions of people do every day, helping someone they cared about navigate an overwhelming system. As they moved deeper into the hospital, the group approached the MRI department. MRI machines are among the most powerful magnets on Earth. They operate using magnetic fields tens of thousands of times stronger than a household magnet. Because of this, strict rules exist. No metal. No exceptions. Oxygen tanks, tools, even small objects can become deadly projectiles if brought too close. The walls were covered in warning signs. Metal detectors stood at the entrance. Every safeguard was there. And yet, every safeguard failed. As Rajesh stood near the MRI room, a ward attendant named Vithal approached him with a request. He asked Rajesh to help carry an oxygen cylinder into the scanning room for the patient. Rajesh hesitated. He wasn't sure. The cylinder was heavy. Metallic. Dangerous, he thought. That hesitation should have saved his life. But the attendant reassured him. He told Rajesh that the MRI machine was switched off. That it was safe. That this was routine. It was a lie. The moment Rajesh stepped into the MRI room holding the cylinder, physics took control. The magnetic field grabbed the oxygen tank with incredible force, yanking it forward like it had been fired from a cannon. Rajesh, still holding onto it, was pulled along. His hand became trapped between the tank and the machine. The impact pinned him against the scanner with crushing force. Panic erupted. Hospital staff rushed toward the room, but the magnet was too strong. The oxygen cylinder slammed into the MRI bore, snapping its valve and releasing a torrent of liquid oxygen directly into Rajesh's face. Liquid oxygen is extremely cold. Inhaling it causes immediate and severe damage to the lungs. As staff struggled desperately to free him, Rajesh's left index finger was severed in the chaos. When they finally managed to pull him away from the machine, he collapsed to the floor, gasping, his lungs already failing. He was rushed to the trauma ward. He never regained consciousness. Rajesh Maru was pronounced dead shortly after arrival. The cause of death was ruled as asphyxiation and blunt force trauma resulting from magnetic projectile impact. What made the incident especially horrifying was how completely preventable it was. The MRI machine had never been turned off. The metal door to the MRI room, which should have been locked, was open. The attendant who gave permission had no authority to do so. In the aftermath, 3 hospital staff members were arrested and charged with causing death by negligence. The MRI unit was shut down. The state government announced financial compensation for Rajesh's family. But none of it changed the reality. Rajesh Maru had walked into a hospital to help someone else survive. Instead, he became one of the most infamous examples of how negligence, misinformation, and invisible forces can combine to kill in seconds. His severed finger remained stuck inside the MRI machine for over a year before it could be retrieved for proper funeral rites. Rajesh died because he trusted the wrong person. Because safety rules were treated as inconveniences. Because in a place meant to heal, no one was paying attention. Sometimes, death doesn't come from danger itself. It comes from the lie that danger isn't there. It was August 2014 in Guangdong Province, China. The afternoon heat pressed down on the narrow streets outside a small but busy restaurant, where the clatter of dishes and the hiss of boiling pots blended into the familiar rhythm of a working kitchen. Inside, Pong Fan was doing what he had done hundreds of times before. Pong was a professional chef. Skilled, experienced, and respected in his local community. He specialized in traditional dishes, including foods many outsiders would consider dangerous or extreme. Among them was snake soup, a delicacy believed by some to improve circulation, strengthen the body, and cure a range of ailments. On that day, the restaurant had acquired an Indo-Chinese spitting cobra. Cobras are among the most venomous snakes in the world. Their venom contains powerful neurotoxins capable of shutting down the nervous system, leading to paralysis and respiratory failure. Handling them requires extreme caution, even for trained professionals. Pong believed he knew what he was doing. Earlier that afternoon, he had decapitated the snake, severing its head cleanly from the body. In his mind, that was the end of the danger. The body was prepared for cooking, and the head was set aside on a nearby surface, waiting to be discarded. This assumption would prove fatal. What many people don't understand about reptiles is that death is not always immediate in the way we expect. Even after decapitation, a snake's nervous system can remain active for minutes, sometimes longer. Reflexes can still fire. Muscles can still contract. And venom glands can still deliver a lethal dose. About 20 minutes after killing the snake, Pong reached for the severed head to throw it into the trash. The moment his hand closed around it, the head bit him. The fangs punctured his skin instantly, injecting venom directly into his bloodstream. Witnesses later said Pong froze for a split second, staring at his hand in disbelief. Then he screamed. The venom worked fast. Neurotoxins began shutting down his nervous system almost immediately. His muscles weakened. His breathing became labored. Panic spread through the kitchen as co-workers rushed to his side. Someone called for medical help. Someone else tried to apply first aid. But there was no antivenom on site. And even if there had been, time was already slipping away. Within minutes, Pong collapsed. Diners in the restaurant heard shouting and chaos from the kitchen. Plates were abandoned. Chairs scraped backward. No one fully understood what was happening, only that something had gone terribly wrong. By the time medical personnel arrived, Pong Fan was dead. The official cause of death was acute respiratory failure caused by cobra venom. Police classified the incident as a tragic accident. Snake experts later explained exactly how it could happen. Even after decapitation, a snake's head can still bite reflexively. The venom delivery mechanism is not controlled by conscious thought. It's automatic. Mechanical. Deadly. In Guangdong province, snake meat has been consumed for centuries. Restaurants prepare it daily. Thousands of meals are served without incident. But Pong Fan's death became a chilling reminder that tradition does not override biology. He died not because he was careless, but because he assumed the danger had passed. It hadn't. Sometimes, the most dangerous moment isn't when the threat is alive and moving. It's when you believe it's already dead. It was November 28, 2004, as winter darkness settled over Kent, Washington. Inside a modest mobile home park, porch lights flickered on one by one as families prepared for a quiet Sunday evening. 24-year-old Philip Quinn was alone inside his trailer, passing time the way millions of people do, watching objects glow. Philip had recently bought a lava lamp. The lamp sat on his kitchen counter, its glass body filled with colorful wax suspended in liquid. Lava lamps are designed to heat slowly. A small bulb at the base warms the contents over time, allowing the wax to rise and fall in hypnotic patterns. But Philip was impatient. Maybe he wanted it to warm faster. Maybe he thought the bulb was broken. Maybe he just didn't understand how the lamp worked. Whatever the reason, he made a decision that would kill him. Philip placed the lava lamp directly on his stovetop and turned on the burner. A lava lamp is a sealed glass container. It is never meant to be exposed to direct heat. When heated too quickly, the liquid inside expands with nowhere to go. Pressure builds. And builds. Until the glass fails. That's exactly what happened. As the lamp heated on the stove, internal pressure skyrocketed. Without warning, the lamp exploded violently. Shards of glass shot outward like shrapnel. One fragment struck Philip directly in the chest, piercing his heart. Despite the mortal wound, adrenaline carried him a few steps into his bedroom. Blood trailed behind him before he collapsed. Hours later, Philip's parents discovered the scene. The kitchen looked like a bomb had gone off. Glass embedded in walls. Liquid splattered everywhere. A trail of blood leading to the bedroom. The medical examiner confirmed the cause of death. A shard of glass from a lava lamp had penetrated Philip Quinn's heart. Police found no drugs. No alcohol. No foul play. Just impatience. Philip Quinn died because he treated a decorative object like a tool. Because he tried to rush something that was designed to take time. Sometimes, the deadliest devices in your home aren't weapons or machines. They're the things you think are harmless. It was January 12, 2007, in Sacramento, California, when Jennifer Strange woke up early with a single goal in mind. The 28-year-old mother of 3 wanted to win a Nintendo Wii for her children. The local radio station, KDND 107.9, known as The End, was hosting a promotional contest called Hold Your Wii for a Wii. The rules sounded simple. Contestants would drink water at regular intervals. Whoever lasted the longest without using the bathroom would win. What wasn't emphasized was how dangerous excessive water consumption can be. Jennifer arrived at the station excited and determined. She wanted that prize. Her children had been asking for it for months, and money was tight. To her, this wasn't just a contest. It was an opportunity. As the competition progressed, contestants were given increasing amounts of water to drink. 8 ounces at first. Then more. And more. Participants began to drop out, complaining of nausea, dizziness, and headaches. Listeners called into the station to warn the hosts. One nurse explicitly stated on air that drinking too much water could be fatal. The DJs laughed it off. They joked about it. The contest continued. Jennifer pushed on. Over the course of 3 hours, she consumed nearly 2 gallons of water. Her body couldn't cope. Water intoxication, medically known as hyponatremia, occurs when excessive water dilutes sodium levels in the blood. Sodium is critical for nerve and muscle function. When levels drop too low, cells begin to swell, including brain cells. Jennifer began complaining of severe headaches. She looked visibly unwell. But she didn't stop. She finished second. Instead of a Wii, she received concert tickets. After leaving the station, Jennifer told co-workers she felt terrible. "My head hurts," she said. "I'm going home." Those were some of the last words anyone outside her family would hear from her. Hours later, her mother found her lifeless at home. The autopsy confirmed the cause of death, water intoxication. Jennifer Strange died trying to win a prize for her children. The fallout was immediate. 10 radio station employees were fired. The station was sued. In 2009, a jury awarded Jennifer's family $16.5 million in damages. Her death became a textbook example of how something essential to life can become lethal when taken to extremes. Water didn't kill Jennifer Strange. Bad judgment did. And the refusal to stop when her body was begging her to. It was April 2014 in St. Petersburg, Russia. The night air was cold enough to make every breath visible, the kind of chill that sharpens your senses and makes metal feel alive under your hands. Most of the city was winding down, lights flicking off one by one, people retreating indoors. 17-year-old Xenia Ignatova was doing the opposite. Xenia was an amateur photographer with a growing obsession. She didn't just want photos. She wanted reactions. Likes. Comments. Attention. The kind of validation that comes from doing something other people are too scared to attempt. Normal pictures bored her. Dangerous ones didn't. That night, she and her friend Oksana Ganova wandered toward a railway bridge in the Kronshtatsky district. The structure loomed 30 feet above the concrete below, its steel framework cutting sharply into the night sky. Trains thundered across it regularly, powered by high-voltage electrical lines that fed the tracks. To Xenia, it looked perfect. She imagined the shot already. The rails fading into darkness. City lights behind her? A dramatic silhouette balanced above the void. Oksana stayed on the ground. Xenia climbed. This wasn't her first time doing something like this. She'd scaled rooftops before. Abandoned buildings. Fire escapes. Each climb came with fear, and fear came with adrenaline. And adrenaline, she believed, made art better. At the top of the bridge, Xenia positioned herself carefully, gripping the metal framework as she adjusted her camera. The wind was stronger up there, tugging at her clothes, whispering past her ears. Below her, the concrete looked very far away. She took one photo. Then she shifted her weight slightly to improve the angle. That was the mistake. Whether it was a slip, a gust of wind, or simple fatigue, Xenia lost her balance. Instinctively, she reached out to grab something, anything, to stop herself from falling. Her hand closed around a cable. The cable was live. It carried roughly 1,500 volts of electricity. The shock was immediate and overwhelming. Electricity surged through her body, causing her muscles to seize violently. Her grip tightened instead of loosening. For a fraction of a second, she was frozen in place, suspended between sky and ground, her nervous system overwhelmed. Then her muscles gave out. Xenia fell. She dropped the full 30 feet, striking the concrete below with devastating force. Even before impact, the electric shock had likely caused severe internal damage. Oksana watched the entire thing. She screamed and ran toward her friend, but there was nothing she could do. When emergency services arrived, Xenia Ignatova was pronounced dead at the scene. The investigation was straightforward. No crime. No malfunction. No mystery. She had climbed a live railway bridge to take a photo. Psychologists later described cases like Xenia's as part of a growing phenomenon. Young people pushing further and further into danger for online attention. Each risky act needing to be more extreme than the last to stand out. Xenia's grandmother later told reporters that her granddaughter loved photography and just wanted beautiful pictures. She got one final image instead. A moment frozen in time, paid for with her life. All for a photo most people would scroll past in seconds. It was February 4, 1912, in Paris, France, when Fran Reichelt decided the world needed to watch him prove a point. Reichelt was 33 years old, an Austrian-born tailor living in Paris. He was intelligent, meticulous, and deeply convinced that he was on the verge of changing history. Aviation was still new and terrifying. Pilots died regularly when planes failed, and Reichelt believed he had the solution. A wearable parachute suit. Not a parachute you strapped on. A parachute you wore. He had tested it repeatedly. It failed every time. Dummies dropped from his workshop window plummeted straight to the ground, the fabric tangling uselessly around them. Friends begged him to stop. Engineers told him the design wouldn't work. Reichelt didn't listen. He blamed the height. If only he had more distance, he insisted, the suit would open properly. After months of arguing, he was granted permission to test his invention from the Eiffel Tower. Authorities believed he would use a mannequin. That's what he had told them. On the morning of the jump, reporters gathered. Cameras rolled. Curious onlookers filled the plaza below. Then Reichelt stepped forward wearing the suit himself. People protested. Friends pleaded. Even the guard at the tower begged him not to do it. Reichelt refused. He said he needed to prove his invention personally. That history demanded it. At 187 feet above the frozen ground, Reichelt climbed onto a small table near the edge. He tossed bits of paper into the air to test the wind. He hesitated for 40 long seconds. Then he jumped. The suit never opened. The fabric wrapped around him as he fell straight down, hitting the ground with such force that witnesses described the sound as sickening. The impact carved a small crater into the frozen earth. Reichelt was dead instantly. The entire event was filmed. His death was replayed in theaters across Europe as a cautionary tale about obsession and arrogance. Ironically, just months later, another inventor successfully demonstrated a working parachute design. Reichelt hadn't been wrong about the need. He had been stupid about the timing. And even stupider about betting his life on being right. It was November 4th, 2012, at the Pittsburgh Zoo and PPG Aquarium. The day was calm, the kind of ordinary weekend afternoon families plan for without a second thought. Parents pushed strollers. Children tugged at sleeves. Animals paced lazily behind carefully designed barriers meant to separate curiosity from danger. 2-year-old Maddox DeKosh was there with his parents, Jason and Elizabeth. Maddox was energetic, restless, fascinated by movement. Like most toddlers, he wanted to see everything better, closer, bigger. His parents lifted him often so he could get a clearer view. That habit would cost him his life. The family stopped at the African painted dog exhibit. The enclosure featured a raised viewing platform, about 4 feet high, designed to let visitors look down into the habitat. Warning signs were posted. Zoo staff had raised concerns about the platform years earlier, but nothing had changed. Elizabeth lifted Maddox onto the railing so he could see the dogs more clearly. It seemed harmless. Parents did it all the time. For a brief moment, everything was fine. Then Maddox shifted. He lost his balance. And he slipped from her grasp. Time collapsed into chaos. Maddox fell 14 feet, missing the safety net below. The net had been designed to catch small debris, not a child. He landed directly inside the enclosure. The dogs reacted instantly. Painted dogs are highly intelligent pack animals. Fast. Coordinated. Curious. Within seconds, they surrounded him. Zoo staff rushed toward the exhibit, but the distance was too great. A police officer fired a shot in an attempt to scare the animals away. It didn't matter. Maddox suffered fatal injuries before anyone could reach him. The zoo closed the exhibit immediately. The dogs were later relocated. Investigations followed. Lawsuits were filed. Arguments erupted over parental responsibility versus institutional negligence. But none of it changed the outcome. Maddox DeKosh died because someone thought lifting a child over a railing was harmless. Because warning signs became background noise. Because everyone does it felt safer than it actually was. Sometimes, stupid decisions aren't dramatic. They're casual. And that's what makes them deadly. It was March 3rd, 2015, in Portland, Oregon. The city was quiet in the early morning hours, the streets mostly empty, the kind of silence that settles in when most people are asleep and bad decisions feel strangely logical. 34-year-old Jennifer Walsh had been awake for nearly 20 hours. She was a freelance graphic designer, overworked, underpaid, and buried under deadlines. For weeks, her life had been reduced to glowing screens, energy drinks, and whatever food could be prepared with minimal effort. Sleep was optional. Efficiency was everything. At 3:15 a.m., hunger finally broke through exhaustion. Jennifer wandered into her small kitchen and opened her microwave. She had leftovers. Soup in a sealed mason jar. A hard-boiled egg, still in its shell. A closed plastic container of takeout. Normally, she would heat them one at a time. But tonight, she had an idea. Why not cook everything at once? She remembered something she'd read online about microwaves heating more evenly with water present. So she filled a coffee mug to the brim and placed it in the center of the microwave, surrounded by the sealed containers. 8 minutes. High power. She pressed start. Almost immediately, the microwave began making loud popping noises. The kind of sounds that should trigger alarm. The kind that means something is going very wrong. Jennifer ignored them. Instead of stepping back, she leaned forward, pressing her face close to the glass door, trying to watch what was happening inside. Pressure was building in every sealed container. The soup expanded inside the mason jar. Steam formed inside the egg. Gas accumulated inside the plastic container. Each one had nowhere to escape. At exactly 3:17 a.m., the mason jar exploded. A fraction of a second later, the egg detonated. The combined force shattered the microwave door outward like a fragmentation grenade. Glass shards blasted into Jennifer's face and neck. One large fragment sliced cleanly through her carotid artery. Blood sprayed instantly. Jennifer collapsed onto the kitchen floor. Her roommate, asleep in the next room, woke to what sounded like a small explosion. By the time she reached the kitchen, Jennifer was already bleeding out. Paramedics arrived quickly. Too quickly to matter. Jennifer Walsh was pronounced dead at the scene. The fire department report was blunt. Multiple sealed containers had been microwaved simultaneously, creating a pressure bomb. Jennifer didn't die because microwaves are dangerous. She died because she was tired, impatient, and convinced she could outsmart basic physics. All to save a few minutes.